Members of the committee, thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. I never did quite get used to Zoom. So my name is Peter Wolfgag. I am the president of Family Institute of Connecticut Action. I am testifying against SB 88, which is the assisted suicide bill. I've been listening to as much of the hearing today as I can. You have my written testimony. I'd like to take my 3 minutes, if I can, to just hit a couple points that have come up in the course of these hours. In fact, they've come up in previous sessions, previous years. They haven't always been addressed. One of them that I think really needs to be discussed is the legacy of Bill Meyer. At about 12:45 today, Barbara Mancini spoke and referenced Bill Meyer. He's a hero of the pro-assisted suicide side of this argument. I know that Chairman Steinberg has mentioned him many times, a constituent, a friend, the guy who got him involved in this issue. This issue has come before a public health committee several times, going back to 2013. And Bill Meyer was the star speaker in 2013. And I will never forget that. In all the years I've been at the Capitol testifying on various causes, Bill Meyer is, and this is a matter of public record, he's the guy who held the bag over his father's head until his father died. And this was an agreement between him and his father. That's what got him in legal trouble. What you don't hear about a lot is the testimony that he gave that day in 2013. He actually testified. Now, he and his father had this agreement ahead of time. He actually testified that when he held the bag down on his father's head, his father changed his mind. He actually tried to lift his son's hands, and his son held his hands down until his father died. And it was completely off message for our friends on the other side. And Terry Gerentano, this was before you, Representative Steinberg, she was the chairman at the time. She tried to get him back on message, and she was like, well, but this was very traumatic for you, wasn't it? And he was like, you can go back and look at this. He said, no, it was, I became famous. I was on 60 Minutes. Mike Wallace and I became friends. We used to vacation together. It was really kind of shocking. I mean, he made this gesture with his hands, and it was actually you can go to Nicole Stacy's written testimony. There's a photo of it. It appeared in CT News Junkie in the Current with his hands like this or like this, describing what he did with his dad. Now, the only other thing I want to say too, so some of your heroes I don't know are necessarily heroes. The other thing is the nurse, Sharon Sanford, who said people regarding the death certificate, you guys took that provision out about falsifying the death certificate. Shannon Sanford said, she's an insider. She teaches, she's a nurse.
Mr. Wolfgang, the time is almost up. If you would please summarize.
Sure. The single most important line I've heard all today, Shannon Sanford said, regarding the death certificate, people are free to write what they want to on the death certificate. You took the provision out about falsifying the death certificate. That's the smoking gun right there, that it's still there. And I think, in the Public Health Committee and beyond, the other committees need to be aware of that single line from Shannon Sanford. Thank you.
Well, sir, I do not have a question for you, but I must state that I'm disappointed that your main argument was to disparage Bill Meyer and to raise a circumstance that has really little to do with how this bill would actually be implemented.
No, I saw it with my own eyes. It's why the bill hasn't passed.
May I finish, sir? You'll have an opportunity to respond, but I hope you'll afford me the opportunity to finish my statement. May I finish? Thank you. The point I'm making is that you are suggesting that because of the action he was obliged to take, because there is no such law in the state of Connecticut, that is an argument against the very rigorous approach that we're taking with this bill. And I have to object to that because I think it's very misleading. You may have comment.
The reason why I think it's relevant, well, it's relevant in a couple ways. I mean, you often say it's because of him that you bring this bill up every year. I think it may be because of him that the bill hasn't passed for the last 9 years or so. But my concern is, however many safeguards that you think you have, I don't know that he's necessarily the hero that you take him to be. And my concern is that you're empowering some potentially very ghoulish behavior.
Well, first of all, sir, I've never called him a hero. He's somebody I've respected. We come from the opposite sides of the aisle, but we've always worked collaboratively. And he was a very good person, I will tell you that. I'm disappointed, and I think it's tragic that he felt obliged to try to fulfill his father's wishes in that manner. And that is why we're here talking today, because what we want to do is something very different. But so thank you for that. But I'm again disappointed that you choose to denigrate someone else as a means to make your argument.
I stand by it.
Representative Carpino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry I have to do this, but I just want to remind members of the committee that this is a very emotional topic for, I think, all of us, regardless of where you are now, regardless of where you were, and regardless or where you will be when the committee takes its vote. So I just want to make sure that we are respectful to everybody who comes before us, regardless of what they say. Whereas I do not agree with many of the things I hear in this committee, depending on the day. I think it is an obligation that we owe to members of the public to hear them out and let them have their 3 minutes. So I know that this is a bit more emotional than perhaps some of the other committees or some of the other hearings, but I just want to remind everyone, it is 3:30. We have many members of the public who are still slated to testify, and I hope that we can be respectful to each and every one of them.
Thank you for that's an excellent point, Representative. Certainly, everyone should respect that. We're always hoping that it doesn't become personal. Thank you for your statement. Taken under advisement.